RXMuscle's live in studio. I'm your host, Dave Palumbo, and today we're sitting in the RXMuscle studios with IFBB pros Brian Hoydic and Jean-Pierre Fux. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Actually, Brian, this is the first time you've ever been here in down in my Florida studio.
Yes, it is.
And thanks for coming. And the amazing, I guess you could say, reason why you guys are here is because the Secrets of Becoming a Diet Guru course is being held this weekend here, tomorrow. And JP, the last time you came, this is your second time taking it, by the way.
I missed the last one, but I can't miss another one.
That's right. Yeah, he really wants to increase his knowledge base, and I think that's very smart. And I think, I tell people all the time, Brian, you and I have talked about this, you've been coaching people, a long time as well, probably almost 15, 20 years now. Yep. And you can never have too much knowledge. Even I'm always trying to learn,
I agree. I learn all the time. I learn from little old ladies at the gym. I'll see them doing exercise. They're butchering it. You know what I mean? But I look at it and I go, wow, if I do that and I do that, and change the angle on that, then it'll actually, benefit me. So,
well, the funny thing is that, 10, 15 years ago even, you couldn't make money coaching people.
There wasn't coaches.
No, there was.
You were the coach.
Right.
You were it.
Right. I was teaching a bunch of people, but there was no coaches coaching people. And the truth of the matter was, there was no bikini, there was no men's physique. There was just bodybuilders, and bodybuilders kind of shared knowledge. Your drug dealer was your
or they
coach.
Didn't share knowledge.
One
or the other.
Yeah. But your drug dealer was your coach, really, the way it amounted to back in the day. And so when all these new classes started coming around and all these people were entering the industry and they want to compete after 6 weeks of training, I want to do a show.
Yeah.
No knowledge whatsoever. You have to hire a coach at that point because you don't know what you're doing. And so I guess opportunities became available, the internet obviously being what it is now in social media. And guys, who like us who couldn't make money are now making a very good living as a coach. The problem is that you have the maybe in the trenches training, but you don't have the actual schooling for it. And they don't teach you this stuff in school anyway. So I started holding the Secrets of Becoming a Diet Guru coach, class, course, seminar. And people just flocked here. It was like people were just waiting for someone to be able to teach them. And you know what? I said to myself, I would always make fun of the fact that no one has any knowledge, and then I wasn't doing anything about it. I said, I got to do something about it. If I'm going to talk about how people should have knowledge and should understand the science of what they're doing, I better hold a course and teach these people and offer it to people at least. And I started as a service, and I enjoy doing it because I see guys like you. How many pro cards did you get last year for your athletes? A lot, right?
Yeah, like 13.
Yeah, I mean you guys, you're killing it out there, in the Cleveland area, and you have a very big following of people now. What's the name of your team?
TC Muscle.
Now, where does that come from?
Top Caliber Muscle.
Okay.
One of my friends, Ryan Stankovic, we both started it together.
Gotcha. So he works with you on the whole thing?
We work independently. We work like partners.
Gotcha.
He's got his people, I got my people.
And how many clients do you work with now?
Upward around 150.
Okay, and that's great. I mean, that's a full boat. You really can't handle very much more.
Yeah, it gets tough.
Now, you just got involved just in the last 2 years in coaching people.
Well,
did I hear you name? I'm sorry.
150, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's good.
Cannot handle more than 50. Yeah.
That's 50's a lot, though. 50's a lot. I have probably in between what you guys have, and I have a lot of things going on, but it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm up, but I tell all my clients, I said, if you don't hear from me by the end of the day, email me again or text me again, because I don't go to bed at night until I answer every single email or text.
And that's what I tell them too, because when I have that many, the volume's so high that I forget, like anybody else, or.
Well, sometimes emails don't go through. Not every email goes
twice,
through.
you'll have a day and you'll get 200 text messages, and by the end of the day, you forgot about 3 of them already.
Right.
So I just tell them, if you don't get an answer, message me back.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do.
Now, as a bunch of aging bodybuilders, we sit here, even though we all look really good because we take care of ourselves, we're all aging. You had the double quad rupture, in your career. Obviously, everyone knows that. We talked about that the last time. Brian, you had a heart attack recently, right?
Triple bypass.
That's right. You had open heart.
Yeah.
And it really. And I had my shoulders replaced. I had my quad has been operated on 4 times. We're going on another operation pretty soon here. I have the defibrillator. We're falling apart, but we're not. It's called, the disease of aging. Really, is what happens. How vulnerable do you feel after you have like a heart attack? Luckily, I've never had that happen to me. But I mean, what mindset? What goes through? Walk us through what happened to you. How did it happen to you?
just sitting at the house one day with my girlfriend. I wasn't feeling right. It was hot, sweaty. Just wasn't feeling right. So I was like, I called my doctor buddy. I was like, hey, I give him. He goes, oh, you're good. Don't worry about it.
the doctor telling you this.
Dr. Cash.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to meet at 12:30, and my girlfriend at the time was like, you need to go to the.
She knew you weren't right. Yeah.
Yes, because I started throwing up a little bit. I was like, wow, So I Google it, and I was like, man, I got all the symptoms of having a heart attack right now.
Oh, so you kind of knew something was like.
Yeah. So I went to the emergent care thing, and we go in, and I told her when we go in, I said, watch how crazy they go when I tell them this.
Yeah, they take you right away when you tell them that, right? Yeah, I think I even told you.
There was
I
like
said, 10 people.
There was like 10 people in the room right away, and they had to get hooked up to all this stuff. And I'm actually on the phone with the doctor, and the doctor on duty was like, yeah, you're having a heart attack right now.
Did you almost like?
No, I was like, oh, this is what a heart attack feels like.
So there's not a moment. There's not a moment where right now it really happens. There's just like
it wasn't like that for me. I mean, I'm sure it happens like that with other people.
So what did they give you? Did they give you any?
Yeah, they gave me the nitro right away,
Okay.
and then they took me to the hospital.
Okay.
When we got to the hospital, they tried to look for the stents, and I had 90% blockage on 2 of them. So.
Oh, because they were originally going to try a stent you.
Yeah, they wanted to see where we were at with that.
So I'm assuming did they come out and tell you this before, or did they go right to open heart?
No, yeah, they came. They said the stent's not going to do it. You got too much blockage, so we got to go to open heart.
Now you know something. This is serious.
Yeah,
now.
I was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I was like, I don't feel like I should be in that situation. Not really too much. I knew that it wasn't going to help if I freaked out. You know what I mean? So.
Because they're going to open your chest up at this point, which is not going to be a
yeah.
fun experience, obviously.
Exactly. I was like, you sure you don't want to do the stents? We can try it, Yeah, they were like, nah, there's no way.
It was, why, the length of the artery was too blocked? What was wrong?
I'm not sure about that. It was just 90% blockage.
So they didn't think they could open it enough?
Right, yeah, they said they wouldn't be able to.
Now you have heart disease in your family?
Yeah, all the males on my dad's side are either dead or had a heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what age?
Young, 50s and 60s.
So there was nothing in the weeks leading up to that?
Nothing.
No symptoms. So
symptoms, nothing.
It's weird because when you work out, your vessels learn to dilate and you become adaptive.
I take that back because, during my workouts, I was having a tough time working out. I was getting very winded on leg days. Like, I'm famous for the 225 at the end of your workout. You have to do 100. So as long as it takes you to do 100, that's what you do. Me and one of my clients, Eric Wood, we're doing the 100. And I'm on like 40, and I'm like,
I'm not making it. Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it today, man. So he finished 100, and I did it. And this was like 2 weeks prior to that. So.
And it's weird because you're in such good shape.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
because you have a genetic component. I was just at the cardiologist the other day, and I had gotten a cardiac cath about 4 years ago when they thought something was wrong with my heart, and I had no blockages. But he said, you can have open blood vessels in the coronary arteries, but yet you can still have plaque formation outside the vessel that they can't see. When they cath you, they run a camera up your vessels. They can't see what's outside the vessels. Right. So I'm going for a cardiac CT, well, not really a cardiac CT, I'm going for a calcium, they check, it's a CT scan, but they check for calcium. And if they can see if your vessels are getting calcified or there's any buildup of plaque outside of the vessel. Because what happens is it grows outside of the vessel and then it constricts the vessel in. And so I don't know. I'm assuming I don't because he says you have very low LDL cholesterol levels and you probably don't. But he said it's a good idea to check. He goes because you can never be sure.
Better be safe than sorry.
But one of the good things that you might want to that I found out was that I talk a lot about essential fatty acids, fish oil, and fish oil, the essential omega-3 intermediates to do something are called EPA and DHA. Those are the 2 essential fatty acids that our body require. The EPA evidently is the more anti-inflammatory one, and they're finding now they actually have a prescription drug just made of EPA. EPA could actually reverse the plaque buildup in the vessels if you take it 2,000 milligrams of it a day. You don't want to take it with the DHA. You can still take your fish oil like you normally would 3 grams a day, but then you take 2,000 milligrams extra of just EPA. Now they have a prescription form of it that's very hard to get your insurance company to pay for it. That's $500 a month because they rate you on that. But you can get it. There's a company called Omega Via that makes a version. It's like $28, and you can buy it. And I just started taking it actually. I don't. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't think I have any problems, but I think take it prophylactically. Right. But yeah, my cardiologist swears by it. He goes, it's probably the greatest discovery in recent years. So.
So that's why we come here.
Yeah, that's right. See, I learned something new the other day at my
That's why we come here.
cardiologist. That was my little lesson for the day. And he's a bodybuilder. He works out too. So we trade information back and forth. I give him bodybuilding information. He gives me health benefit because he tells me the stuff that's worth doing, the stuff that's not worth doing. And
That helps.
yeah, it definitely helps. And the funny thing is, as bodybuilders, we do have thickened hearts. So
Right.
But
was
that's
one thing they had said.
right?
Yeah.
But it's reversible too. Now, obviously, it looks like you haven't stopped working out. You look still pretty big. So, I was forced to stop working out a little bit. Well, I still worked out, but very light because of my shoulders. So, I'm going to also go for an echocardiogram. I'm going to see if my heart actually muscle decreased in size from the last 2 years of really not training a lot since I've been going through the shoulder replacements.
I had some issue in that regard.
Did you?
Yeah, my heart capacity was down.
Your cardiac output was down.
I did some medication for a while.
What'd you do? Beta blocker?
That's 15 years now, I can't remember exactly, but twice 3 months. And what I always try to do, I don't know if it helps much, I always try at the end of my cardio, so I don't work out a lot anymore, but I never miss cardio. I try to push to the maximum heart rate, as good as I
to
can.
work your heart, yeah.
So I try to do that.
Every little bit helps, and the trick is getting tested, you got to get your EKG, you got to get your echocardiogram to see the thickness of your heart, see what the output of the heart is, and then you got to go, nowadays, it's going to become standard medicine within 5 to 10 years, you got to get the cardiac CT done to see what how the vessels are open, what the calcium score is, and to see if you're at risk for coronary heart disease, because my cardiologist told me, he goes, it's not whether you're going to get it, it's when you're going to get it. Everyone gets coronary heart disease. Everyone. Just some people get it younger and some people get it more severely, but everyone's going to have it. So if you have some at the beginning of it, it's good to know that there's supplements out there that you can take, like EPA at high dosages, that will help start to reverse that. I'm sure within the next 10 to 15, 20 years, they'll give you a pill and it'll probably just dissolve it all away. But we're not there yet, and we got to keep ourselves alive a little longer until we get there. Right? Exactly. I'm still waiting for them to regrow hair, but they haven't figured that one out yet.
I don't care.
Now, as coaches, I want to ask you. I'll start with you, JP. The dosages that we used of anabolic steroids back in the day were considered extreme, probably. We were talking this earlier. 1,000 milligrams a test was like, you got to be an insane person to do that, right? Nowadays, you're like a chump if you're only using 1,000 milligrams.
My guys accuse me of lying.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, accuse me of lying, I heard this, I heard that, I heard this and that.
Drives you crazy when you hear that, right?
So it drives me nuts, absolutely, So who thought that I'm going to be the guy who's slowing people down, someday, but that's exactly what happened.
Like, what was the cycle that you took back in the day? Like, what was your Olympia cycle?
I did the same cycle. I had the off-season cycle where I did 4 weeks of T-ball. I think it was 3.5 weeks or so, 50 milligrams a day. Then I did tren. We had very good tren, 4 shots, 78 milligrams a week, 1,000 tests, what was considered pretty crazy back then.
Yeah. So you did 4 shots of Parabol, right?
Correct.
Correct. Which was in the anthem was 1.5
Good stuff.
I think it was 76 milligrams, yeah.
76.
76.8.
Yeah.
So I did NPP.
Angel phenylpropionate, yeah.
Very high, 300 a week.
Yeah, that was like extreme back then, right? Yeah.
Nowadays, we know better than to mix the NPP and the trend together.
Yeah.
And orals only at the very beginning of the cycle.
Gotcha.
And for the diet, I just added on some Halo at the end, the last couple of weeks, 20 milligrams, and Anawar 4 weeks before the show.
You didn't use Winstrol?
I did use Winstrol every other day, 100.
Yeah, okay. And that was even extreme. People
Injectable
were
or oral?
Injectable.
Yeah, because they actually had injectable back then.
So
Nowadays,
orals I did for the World Championships to pass the test.
oh, because you stopped them, 2 weeks before or something like that?
That's 7 days before. I started losing the dose 2 weeks before. Stopped.
Did they drug test you when you won?
They did. They took 5 out of 50.
Wow.
And I remember I asked my advisor at the time, what about propionate? He said you can do 72 hours before you can take the last shot of the propionate.
That's risky. Yeah.
So he was at the airport in Zurich. So I told my coach at the time, was not a coach like we are today.
He was a steroid dealer.
I gotta go to the bathroom, take my last shot. He said, "Don't do it. Do not do that. It will never work." I said, "Yeah, I got a good source. It will work." So we went to the drug test in China. First number they pulled, my number.
Which was probably, I'm sure it wasn't random, yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So he wanted to die. I could see in his face, oh my God,
You just took a shot, right?
So I did pass.
Oh, you did?
I did pass, yes. I did miss one test at the Swiss Championship in '89 for nandrolone.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
that's detectable up to 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was there was this thing from Eastern Germany, Bolasterone called. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be a testosterone mix, but it turned out to be Deca. I took that in April. The show was in October.
Shoot.
So yeah,
Were they just disqualified for that show?
they did. So I never went back to the Swiss Championship.
Yeah. which was ironic because that's where you're from.
Yeah. So it was the junior actually. The senior that year was won by Charlie Faber. I don't know if you know
Oh, yeah,
him.
yeah. I remember.
He won then in Paris the World Championships and then went to the Olympia in Chicago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What were you using in terms of growth hormone back then?
Did I really use it? Because the stuff we had was questionable at best.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't afford the real ones. They
Right.
were 4 units, 250 Swiss francs.
Yeah, they
Do
were
you think they even
expensive.
had fake growth back then, though?
Well, from
know.
Russia. We
They-
bought this stuff from Russia, you know.
I think that Russian GH was good, actually.
Okay,
it was like 10 vials in a
Then I
thing.
changed
tray.
my mind. You mean the amount of powder was different in each vial?
Yeah, it was not made very well, but
Yeah.
I think it was real. I
So,
do. It probably wasn't full dose. Yeah.
Yeah, so 4 units.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And that was a lot back then, right?
I took nothing as an amateur.
Okay.
You know, I
Oh,
won the
so you
World Championship.
never used GH?
I didn't know that. I had a very interesting conversation backstage with the favorite for the World Championship title, Nandor Kaki. And he asked me, yeah, you're a pro now, so you can, you're not going to compete against me again. Tell me, how does it work with the GH? I said, I'm sorry, I didn't ever took any.
He didn't believe
I
it.
didn't believe me. He didn't.
What did you weigh when you won the World Championships?
Well, I became too light because I knew I'm going to win. So I just had to be hard. So I went down to like 245, 250, something like
Which
that.
was probably 10 pounds too light, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, Dorian said he did the thing. Dorian told me when I interviewed him, he goes, I went too light too, especially, I thought he wasn't that big in 91, when we went against Haney.
Finland.
In Finland. and we
No,
won.
against Haiti he was okay, but then in Finland he was really thin.
Yeah,
For
but he
those-
said he could have been way bigger. He could have been 15 pounds heavier. He goes, I was just over-dieted for the show because I was so worried about,
But he
winning.
showed the next year. I mean, it was.
Oh, yeah. Because I thought he made a lot of people think he made a 30-pound jump in gains. He probably only gained 10 pounds of muscle, but because he was 15 pounds too light for that previous year. Brian, when you were doing your, I guess you could say, back in the 90s, the late 90s when you were competing, what would be a cycle you'd use for like a show?
That would have been the cycle you put me on.
Yeah, probably, yeah, exactly.
Probably we would use equipoise test. I would just do 500 to 600 of both.
Right.
And then towards the end we would use more orals.
Right.
Winnie, Anavar, Proviron.
Yeah.
But they weren't crazy.
No, and there was no really, a lot of people don't know there was no aromatase inhibitors back in the 90s.
Right, yeah,
So everyone used
yeah.
Novadex or Proviron, which we didn't even know Proviron wasn't an anti-estrogen, but that's what we used. Look, everything works if you diet hard and you get in shape. I think people really focus more on training and diet than drugs. I think the drug culture, came about when the internet made it much more accessible for everyone to get drugs. Because back in the 90s, you had to know someone to get drugs.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't order it online.
No.
You had to go and procure it from someone in a parking lot somewhere.
How much was the first bottle you bought?
Here's the story. I went into a GNC. I was living in White Plains in Westchester at the time, so I was going to medical school up there, and I wanted to do my first cycle. So we met this real you could tell he was a bodybuilder, but he was looked like a derelict bodybuilder. He was working at GNC, and you remember Strength Systems had all those weird, was it Strength Systems USA that sold those supplements that they were like, it sounded like clenbuterol and it sounded like,
oh yeah.
And I think they were really bad supplements, but he was pushing, that was the first thing I ever bought that I thought was like a steroid, even though it was just nutritional products that had the names of steroids on them. And I said, I said, obviously I know. I said, you ever do a cycle? He goes, oh yeah, I got a prescription. And this is when they had just made it illegal. It was 1991 or something like that. And he's like, but I got it, in New Jersey, they weren't controlled substances. In New York, you had to have a triplicate prescription to get anabolics in the pharmacy. And this guy had a prescription, and I'm like, oh, can you get me some? I was at this point, I was like, I didn't know anything. All I knew was I read the anabolic reference guide from Bill Phillips 400 times. I probably had more knowledge than the guy did, but he had the practical experience and the hookup. He didn't have a car, this guy. I think he just got out of jail or something like that. I drove him to Jersey, we were talking the whole time, and I was asking him a million questions, which I found out later I knew infinitely more about steroids than he did, even though I had never taken a single shot, because I had read so much about them prior to taking them. And I got a bottle of I think I got a bottle of Deca from him, and I think he had a bottle of Winstrol tabs. I think that was the first thing. I think it was Deca and Winstrol tabs.
Yeah, I paid $140 for 50
Yeah, they were super expensive because it was the pharmacies probably legitimately charged a lot of money, and I think the Deca came in 200 milligram vials. It was Organon, and he charged me $40 a bottle for them.
So my first cycle was $1,000 from a pharmacist in the gym. So it was 200 milligram of testosterone a week and 200 milligram of Deca a week. And then he gave me all of this. He sold me all of this liver protectors.
Right, he scared you like you were going to die from this cycle. Yeah.
So I got this whole box, and it was like Christmas, home, and we had no idea how to get a shot.
Right, which was the least amount of stuff was in there. There was the anabolics, obviously. Yeah, it was all vitamins.
And then later on, Czechoslovakian bodybuilder, which I don't want to name here, came with his little suitcase to a gym in Zurich and sold D-ball pills, the little 8 thing from Thailand.
Oh yeah,
the pink ones.
Yeah, the big
ones.
Yeah,
I think
the stop signs.
Yeah. So he told me it's very, very strong. So I cut them in half.
5 milligrams. No, they were like 3 milligrams.
Yeah.
When they tested them out,
we used to chew them.
Yeah. We tested them out. They were like 3 milligrams.
Well, yeah. But they came 1,000 in a bottle.
1,000 in a bottle.
The jackpot.
With the pink label on them, the big white bottle.
Yeah, they were in like a little plastic bag inside the thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
People bought them in Thailand for like $60-70 and sold them in Switzerland for $1,000.
Oh, were they really? Oh, wow. Yeah. I forget what we used to pay for them. I remember at one point I bought like 100 bottles of those things. Think about it. I had 100. 10,000 pills and stuff, but it didn't look like that much.
No,
I think they were pretty good, huh?
No, I thought they were good. They were.
They were good for at the time,
Yeah.
Because I remember I improved my
real.
bench press from 130 to 180 in like 3 or 4 weeks taking them.
Wow. Yeah. No, they made you strong. And the good thing about the Anabol was it really didn't kill your appetite like Anadrol did. I don't know if you guys ever took Anadrol. I could never make it past 2-3 weeks and stuff.
Both of them
I went all the way to Brazil to get Anadrol.
Did you really?
Yeah, I accepted the gas posing at the very bad timing gas posing, so just to get around it.
Just to get down.
So then I went to the first pharmacy, and every pharmacy only had like 2 or 3 of 10.
Oh, really?
So I remember...
Homogeneous, they were called there,
Yeah,
right?
I remember I went to every pharmacy that morning, before my flight left. And then,
that's when you know you're really into steroids, right?
Oh, yeah. So, they just make me gain too much water.
Oh, yeah. But were you able to eat on them?
I don't
Either
remember
one.
that I wouldn't eat on them. I don't remember.
Both kill my appetite.
Yeah.
I end up having to take them late at night, so that way I could.
Now, I met a lot of people always ask me how I met Brian. I met Brian. Brian, I guess, what was the name of the gym that ran that show in Erie, PA?
American Fitness.
American Fitness. The owner,
Mike Goodwin.
Mike Goodwin hired me to do this guest posing in Erie, PA. I forget what year was that. It was late 90s, right? 99?
96, maybe 98. 98.
Maybe 98.
Yeah, it was 98. It was.
And was that when the World Trade Center came down?
It was 99, wasn't it?
2001.
Yeah, 2001. He's right.
Maybe that was the year, because I did 2 years in a row.
You did 3 years, I thought.
Maybe I did 3 years. Because one of the years I remember was the World Trade Center fell down, and I didn't think I was going to get it. I was the only person in the airport. And you picked me up in Pittsburgh, and you drove me up to Erie. But the first year I went up there and I met you, and you had a good bunch of bodybuilders up there. And it was a little tiny gym, and in Erie, PA, which nothing's going on in Erie, PA. And
Nothing good.
It was a good bodybuilding scene up there, And I actually got that first show. I guess it was right after I had gotten done competing either at the USA, I think it was Nationals. I don't remember which
Nationals.
one. Was it Nationals? And I actually looked better at that thing. Gary Uda came up to me and he's like, "If you would have looked like this in Nationals, no one would have beat you."
What year? When did you come the closest to get the pro card?
That's when in 2000 with
2002 and 3. I was second to Tony Freeman in 02.
should have won that one.
And Tony wasn't good because he was just coming back from the pec repair. And,
I was with you at that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were. Yeah.
You were.
I beat a lot of. I beat Eric Fromm. I beat.
You didn't look like you had skin. I mean, it literally looked like you just had
muscle.
muscle with no skin on top of it.
That was a close.
You broke the toilet, remember? Sat on the toilet and broke it.
I don't even remember these things. People tell me these funny stories, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I did do that.
I was like, he's 300 pounds. He broke the fucking toilet.
I didn't expect to play second, so when I did, I was so happy just to get second that I was like, oh shit, I was pretty close. Then afterwards, people were like, oh, you should have won. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
Freeman's
man.
calves looked really bad that day. So
yeah,
they were like really exposed.
He wasn't, just for everyone to know, he wasn't the Freeman who 2 years later was winning pro shows. He was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And then the following year at the USA, Chris Cook beat me. That's when I thought I was going to be. I really thought they would give it to me then because I was kind of the next in line, and they called out that it was Chris Cook and me left, and I'm like, I might have this. I might win. This might be it finally. Because remember, you had to win your class.
Yeah, it was no bullshit.
And Chris Cook had a film crew following him around the whole weekend.
I remember that. Yeah, I mean,
I said, this doesn't.
There's no way you're beating
this is not boding well for me, because he's getting a documentary filmed on him. I said, and he won, unfortunately.
Was it a show you realized not going to happen?
It was the only show that I ever didn't want to go out after, and I was depressed because I said, I really I felt like that was my shot. That was it, and it was. I never placed that well again, and the next year I retired. I stopped competing because I felt like I couldn't get better, and I was hiding it, but I was dealing with really bad shoulder issues. I was training around it, and I was playing a lot of tricks, but I couldn't really externally rotate my arm when I was posing. I was handicapped in a sense, and I never wanted to compete and not be my best. I think the same thing would happen with you.
I never had an injury.
No, just the quad was the only injury?
Never really.
Well, that was a pretty big injury, though.
Yeah.
Both quads, though, right?
Both quads,
yeah. And everything, but I really never had an injury. Biceps tendon hurt for a little bit, but really a few weeks.
But how old were you when you tore your quads? You were still young, weren't you?
2002, 34.
Yes, you were still young.
Prime.
The injuries all happen after 35.
He was in his prime right there.
I never really hurt myself in the gym either. I had chronic, I had joints that were kind of getting sore as time went on. And then I tore my quad, in a freak accident too. So, it's usually when you're not paying attention that you get, that you run into problems. When you're paying attention, you're ultra focused in the gym.
Or when you do something stupid. You know what I mean? Doing shit you shouldn't be doing.
Right, but when you're in the gym training and you're focused and you have a training partner there, you don't get hurt usually,
That's true.
You might tweak something here and there, but you're so focused. It's when you're not paying attention and, you do something stupid, arm wrestle someone in a bar, or you're wrestling with someone, and you tear a bicep. I see so many freak accidents. I mean, how many people, think about Branch Warren slipped on the ice, tore his quad. Oscar Arden slipped on the ice, tore his quad. Evans Attapani, I think, also slipped on the ice, tore his quad. I mean,
it's like Idris Wardell playing tennis, tearing his biceps.
Right.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
It's amazing how many people really hurt themselves. So Brian, I got to ask. I had my sister on the set last week, and I was asking her questions about me early in my life, because people like to hear questions. Tell me a Dave Palumbo story that sticks out in your head.
All right, this is a good Dave Palumbo story. All right, so this is right when the headless earpieces come out.
Okay.
All right, and Dave was famous for McDonald's. So we go to McDonald's, and he orders his normal 10 hamburgers. Okay, and he normally would take 5 of them off, take the bun off, and put 5 on one and 5 on the other. So we're in the not so good part of Erie, PA, in the ghetto area, and we're sitting there, and we ordered, and I go up, and I'm ordering something else at the register, and I look back, and Dave's talking on the phone, but he's eating his hamburger, and there's 4 or 5 young black guys sitting there watching him. They think he's talking to the hamburger. Okay? So I sit back, and I'm watching this shit unfold, and I'm like, man.
Oh, because no one had
earpieces. You were the only one that ever had one. You know what I mean? So he's sitting there and he's talking, eating a hamburger and shit. And so that was a good one. Another good one is we go to the mall. It's December in Erie, PA, and it's blizzard weather.
It's freezing.
And Dave's got his uniform on, his flannel, cut off flannel, his shorts, and his big black shoes, and we're walking through the mall.
And a tank top.
And a tank top underneath it.
In the winter.
In the winter, and everyone is just like this. I was like, oh man. But everywhere we went, that's what it always was like, because he was so big compared to everybody else. And so shredded,
I got used to that. I like that. The only time that no one ever looked at me was, and this is a true story, I went to the mall. Greg Kovacs and his wife Kim came to visit me.
Yeah, you weren't nothing then,
And
right?
Greg came to me, and he got into my car, the BMW, it was like a 5 Series, and his knees, he was up against the dashboard, because he was so big, he was 400 pounds. And he was sweating profusely. I had the AC cranking in the winter in the car. And we go into the mall, and we're walk through Roosevelt Field Mall, which is one of the biggest malls on Long Island. And no one's looking at me. I'm like, what's going on here? People are just like, because he's 6'2", 3", he's 400 pounds.
It's like walking around with Baldy Led in European airports.
No one even looked at you.
No, people ask me if they can get autograph from my friends.
They give you the take a picture of you and that guy. Yeah. And I was still in tank top and my usual uniform, but Greg was enormous.
Yes.
No one realizes how big he was unless you saw him in person. You could critique his physique all you want. You stand next to him in person and you will feel like a little kid.
I remember one time we were checking in the same hotel and he was about 5 people in front of me. And from the time that we got there to the time that he checked in, he was completely soaked. Completely soaked in sweat. Yeah. I was like, what just happened here?
Yeah, he was always sweating. Matter of fact, he always carried a battery-operated fan around with him, which I was jealous of. And as a birthday gift, his wife bought me one. Because if you remember, I don't know why it's changed unless I've just changed, but when you would go on an airplane, you remember back in the 90s, you go on an airplane, and it was swelteringly hot, especially as a bodybuilder. You couldn't turn the air jet on.
Fast enough.
Just dripping sweat. So Greg would he'd put the little table down, and he'd put his little fan, and he'd have it right on him, and he'd be just be nice and cool. So I saw him do that once. I'm like, where'd you get that? She, back then there was no internet, so she had some little catalog that she would get in the mail, and she would order it from there. And so she ordered me one, and I was like.
And unfortunately, I never met him. Was he 350 pounds?
He was over 400 pounds. He was 420, I think, is his biggest. And the funny thing was those, back then, little battery-operated things ran on D batteries. And the D batteries are like this big, and there was like 6 D batteries. And the fan weighed a lot, but you didn't care, because just to be cool on an airplane was worth it. And you had to travel a lot, I'm sure even the flights to Europe and stuff like that were worse.
3 or 4 shirts with me at any time. Who was never sweating on an airplane, and I was always so jealous about it? Dorian.
He didn't sweat?
I looked at him and said, why is he not sweating?
He was so dry. That's
he was so dry.
Well, also, and you probably know this better than I do, the European flights in the 90s, you could smoke cigarettes on it. They would pull cigarettes out and start smoking in the middle of the airplane. You don't remember this because you're too young, but I mean, when I was a kid, we went to Florida, there was smoking sections on airplanes where you could smoke. But they kind of got rid of that, in the 90s in the US, but in Europe, if you had a connecting flight and it was a European flight, they all smoked on there. It was like a nightmare. You were like, it was like you were sitting in the middle of an ashtray.
Yeah, your eyes would be so...
I just totally forgot about smoking till I went back to the Olympia in Italy, and I've seen all the athletes smoking.
Right.
All the athletes smoking.
I saw Marcus Rule smoking at an Olympia one time. I was completely blown away. But a lot of the German bodybuilders were smokers. Who else was a big smoker? I forgot. I think I saw Ian Harrison smoking too. If I'm not mistaken.
The way you grew up,
Is it? Yeah, but cigarettes were normal, right? But it seemed, do people in Europe get as much cancer of the lungs as they do here in the U.S.?
I have no idea.
I think you guys have better cigarettes there. They used to roll their own there. I think that's why. I think the cigarettes they sell in the U.S. are more cancer causing.
They have more carcinogens in them.
More carcinogens, exactly.
To raise up the healthcare.
To make more money for the drug companies to make a profit. So Brian, if you had with all your years of experience now, everything you've experienced, if you had to go back and do it again, what would you change?
Oh, I don't know. I would pay attention more. You know what I mean? Because I think that, I not forgot, but didn't learn as I should have been. You know what I mean? Until later, I was like paying attention more, going, knowing my body a little bit better and other people's bodies as well. You know what I mean? Like, all right, like if I would have documented a little bit more.
Did you know you were going to go into coaching people, or were you at some point in your career, did you get nervous and say, what the fuck am I going to do to make a living now?
Yeah, basically that.
Okay. Yeah. So you kind of just...
I was training people, you know what I mean? But
you can't make enough money training.
You can't make enough people training people, yeah.
Because you only have so many hours in a day.
So many hours in a day, so many people, even if you run group sessions and, you got to...
It's exhausting too.
Oh, yeah. People don't realize it.
Big burnout on
how much is spent, doing everybody else's stuff. Mm-hmm. Most people don't appreciate what all goes into that. And, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, you're doing it, right?
Right.
And the first thing you do when you get up, JP, is look at your phone and see who's panicking. And who do you got to talk off the ledge today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I purposely, try not to look at my phone, like if I have to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, because I'm like,
Oh, I
it's gonna
never
ruin
would.
my sleep
No,
completely.
I never would do that. No, I
No,
put the
I
phone in the
try
kitchen.
an hour here or there, but I just have to
No,
get back to
phone is in the
yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I wake up, if it's contest season, I'll try to like guess the amount of texts I have before I get there. I'm like,
It's gonna be
65.
at the
Yeah.
Arnold too. I go to the Arnold and I'm like, oh.
The
no.
day that
25 texts.
Dallas McCarver died, I had something like 200 and something texts when I woke up.
You know,
I was like, what
Yeah,
is
it's
going
true.
on?
Or how about when it's your birthday?
Yeah.
I'm so happy that people will, take the time to say happy birthday to me, but at the same time, I'm like, oh no, another one.
Thanks.
Thanks. Because, I don't want to be rude or anything like that. Because the one person I don't respond to, they're going to think I'm an asshole.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, in addition to 125 birthday texts, I have
All your other work
100
to do.
text messages of people who are
2 years
dying.
ago, I tried to answer every single one on Messenger. Like after 2 hours, I gave up. I think that cannot happen again ever.
Thanks, everybody.
It's
And that's what
Thank
you
you
do.
to everyone. Exactly. It's not. What would you say if you had to do it again, JP? What would you say that you would do differently?
It's very easy. Being aware of my midsection, presentation. So when I see in videos, when I see Sean Ray and those guys, how aware they were of every
Body awareness,
I
yeah.
wasn't.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Very often when you see me in a bad position, it's
Because you're relaxing.
it's just not
You're not
focusing
paying
on it,
attention, right, yeah.
So I stand up there and making a jerk out of myself. And back then it was also not that you read in a magazine later, oh my God, his belly was out of control or anything like that. It's just I wasn't aware of it. So I did pose more than probably anybody for my prep, but not with a video or anything. I just went to the base poses. I could pose for an hour without getting tired.
But you weren't holding your
stomach
You didn't have
in.
anyone
Right.
critiquing what you were doing right or wrong. Yeah.
So that's kind of, also nobody knew that that's going to be on YouTube someday, all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But that really bothers me. I could have done so much more just with a better presentation. Or people sent me a picture. I took this with you backstage. You were a guest poser, and
Yeah, I know. You feel like horrified. I see that
how
too.
hard is it to go for a second?
pull it
just
in,
focus
I know,
on the
yeah.
Because you had 400 people asking you for pictures. The one guy who took the worst picture, that's the one you get back.
Today, I was telling you, I would hold that stomach in for another hour backstage.
Right, yeah,
It's just not
same for
happen.
me.
It would not happen.
Same for me. I would be more aware of my midsection. And
I don't think anyone knew
controlling
about fiber and the things we talked about today. To also control a lot of what's in your stomach. Moving the ingredients through your stomach better, doing certain exercises to control that. It just wasn't talked about because you know what the problem is when you're not that big. Okay, the midsection doesn't
Right.
really. It's easier to control even if you don't practice posing. When you start getting to the 250-pound mark or
eating more.
or eating a lot, eating 12 times a day like I was, the midsection gets out of control
Yeah,
and you
it
don't
has
even
to.
realize it. It happens and you're not even aware of
And
what's
I
going
really
on.
started to lose money. So almost classic 98. After first comparison with Flex in the middle, Nestle on one side, I'm on the other.
Yeah.
And my stomach is out of control.
Right.
And not that, it was not perfect, but with
Right.
a little bit of focus, I could have been easily be third. So then they moved
Right.
Vince Taylor in it and gave him
Right.
the third place. It cost me over $10,000.
Yeah.
So that's when it's not that funny anymore, guys.
No, absolutely. I got to give credit to back in the day. You're right, like the Sean Rays, the Flex Wheelers,
Yeah.
Cormiers. These guys had that posing room in Gold's Gym Venice that they were in there for hours a day. And I don't know if they did it because they wanted to just show off to each other, but they knew that the posing was that important. And I don't think the guys on the East Coast. We always say East Coast guys train harder. I don't think the guys on the East Coast knew about posing. I don't think we really spent enough time doing it.
No, even more sad in my case, I spent a ton of time on posing,
Right.
but not quality time.
Neglecting
Right,
one.
right.
Yeah.
Well, no one wants when you're dieting and you're starving. No one wants anyone else telling you that you're not doing something right because it's so aggravating. You're like, I just want to just sit down and
Every
relax.
morning, first thing I did is for a half an hour, base poses, 10 seconds each pose.
Right, to get the
But
endurance.
again, if I made a mistake, I didn't correct it. So I made
Sure.
a mistake over and over again for 12 weeks in a row.
Right, and then when someone tries
Practice
to correct
making
something, you can't even do it because you're so brainwashed in the wrong direction already.
Right.
But that would never have happened that I get out of breath up there. I could pose forever. It's just the quality was.
Right. Well, you needed to do a little of both. You needed. I think the endurance aspect is important because I think a lot of people have no posing
Yeah, you
endurance.
can see that.
I mean, if God forbid they keep you up there for more than 10 minutes, these guys are like ready to drop to the stage and,
Yeah.
because they have no endurance. And then you have the one guy who all he does is practice posing, and he sometimes they'll keep moving him up and up and up and up and up because he doesn't fade. He looks better and better and better as these other guys start going.
How many times have you seen that guy that's in the middle and they just move him out?
Yeah, you feel bad.
You've seen when they took Phil out the second time in a row.
Yes, he almost died. He was exhausted, and Sean Roden was. Had perfect endurance out there, and I think that that helped him. And so I always tell people you want to prepare for a 1 hour prejudging, even though it's probably more likely going to be 10 minutes.
So the most comparisons in a row I had was 93 at the World Championships, 7 of them.
Now, you know why that? And I'm gonna tell you why. I went to one World Championships, and I was out there. The way they used to do it back in the 90s is that every judge got to pick their own call out.
Correct. And
they would give it to the head judge, and then the head judge would call every judge's call out. So you might get called out, like he said, you might get called out 9 times in a row if you're in that first call out. If every judge thinks you're in it, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember I went with Colette Nelson when I was dating her, and I forget what year it was, in 2004. She was in the World Championships, and she wasn't the biggest girl there, and she was in like 11 call outs in a row. These other girls couldn't handle it. She loved to put, Colette loved to pose, and she won the show because of that. And she won the overall. And she was like the first American to do that, like in forever. But she outposed these girls.
I used to love that World Championship. I don't know
it was good.
What happened to it. I don't know exactly.
Well, now that Rafael is not with the IPB Pro League anymore, he has his own World Championships, and then they have whatever else there is now. But it was a good show. But it was kind of stupid that they drug tested it because no one was drug free. It was ridiculous,
They could pass a drug test, basically.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it was an IQ test, is really what it was. And the
It wasn't
problem,
drug free. It was just they could pass.
the problem today is that all the steroids are underground. You don't even know what you're getting. You think you're taking, Winstrol, and you're taking DECA, and as we know, DECA, could last in your system 18 months. The metabolites of that, so not good. Well, anyway, I wanted to thank you guys for coming into the studio. I thought this was really good. Reminiscing of old times. Before I let you go, who's going to win the Arnold Classic this year in the men's bodybuilding, Brian?
I'm gonna go with, because everyone says he's out of shape.
Give me top 3.
I'm gonna go with Rolly, Cedric, and I'm gonna go with those 2. I don't have a third.
Okay.
William?
Yeah, Bonac third.
Okay, all right.
I'll put Bonac third.
He won last year. You're putting him third.
Put him third.
Okay.
I just think
I hope for Curry. I met him last year. Super nice guy. And I cannot say, Rolly is not gonna make top 3, even what I saw in the last guest posing.
She looks a little off.
I hope for Cedric, but I always.
I know, but you've seen him off before, and then he gets to the day of the show, and he pulls it together
quick. A little bit too much, but maybe.
Yeah, he pulls
Brandon
it
Curry says that he's never seen anyone turn their body around so fast because he can do he doesn't lose muscle. He can eat no food and starve, and he'll get in shape.
If Brandon improved his legs a little bit, he can maybe win. So we'll see.
I'm having a hard time picking this one because my gut wants to go with Ruli Winkler, but then I saw him guest pose a couple weeks ago, and he doesn't look like he's in the best shape. Bonac, I know, is going to probably be spot on. Cedric is a wild card because he's a guy who could do great or can't do great. And then I've been looking at pictures of Rafael Brandao from Brazil, who I really like the way he looks. And Luke Sandow's a monster.
There's guys I'm really rooting for. Kubo, I mean, he's improving.
Yeah, Steve is always up there too. But I think that
Sandow, I'm becoming a fan of his.
Yeah, he's huge. I mean, he's 5'7" and he's like 270 or something like that.
His pictures were
impressive,
but he didn't look sharp in the pictures that I saw.
Yeah, but he'll come down and he'll dry out. So I mean, it's a tough show to predict. If you're going to go with historically, Cedric has to be considered a favorite, but you don't know what Cedric you're going to get. And obviously, Bonac and Ruli are the 2 highest placing Olympians. So you have to put them in your top 3.
Right.
I mean, even though Ruli might be a little off, maybe he'll finish, like you said, he might be third.
I mean, if things have to go normal, Rolly, William, and Curry have to be top 3 with Cedric as a wild card.
Right, yes. I agree with that. But that's what makes it an exciting Arnold, at least for me, because you go there and you don't know who's going to win. A lot of times you go there and it's a foregone conclusion. Kaiser is going to win, or this one's here is going to win, and we don't really know. So that's going to make it more interesting for me. Are you going to be out there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you going to be out there, Brian? Okay. So you'll have to come and join us maybe in the wrap-up we do, Chris Cito and I, and we'll break down the show, and I'm sure we'll insult a few people, and they won't talk to us for another year. Every time I do a wrap-up, Dexter Jackson gets mad at me. If God forbid we critique his physique too harshly. But
is he doing it?
No.
Okay.
I have a feeling he might do New York Pro again. I don't know. I think he's looking for win number 30. which would, he's already got the record, but I think 30 wins would be a nice way to retire. I don't know if he's going to retire, but we just did a Muscle in the Morning story on him. The Dexter said he's trying to get to 275 in the offseason, something he's never done. So at his height, it's pretty big, and Dexter doesn't really get fat, so it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the stage, at the end of the year.
I don't know if that's worth it for him at this point in his life and career. And
I don't know either. He must have some strategy, Dexter's always trying to recreate himself, and no one's done it better than him, so.
Yeah, you're right.
Did you guys see what was going on with Robbie Robinson recently?
Yes.
Yeah, he's. We raised, I think, like $14,000 for him
cool.
with the GoFundMe campaign. So, which is going to really help him because he had to get his lungs cleaned out, and he's getting a blood transfusion, and because he's got sickle cell anemia, and it's been hitting him pretty hard these last couple of years.
I actually went out and trained with him a couple times.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You've trained with. Who have you trained with? Give us the list of all the people you've trained with.
Charles Glass.
Who else?
Melvin Anthony.
Oh, really?
Craig Titus.
Wow. And did you do that purposely with the understanding that you're trying to get more knowledge for yourself?
Oh yeah. Who else?
It wasn't just for your physique. It was for let me see what these guys are doing type of thing.
I mean, when I went out and I first watched Dexter Jackson train out in Venice, I was amazed on the light weights that he was handling.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's genetics, though. Yeah.
I was like, what is he doing? He's curling like he has two quarters on the side
Right.
curling.
If you would have done it, you wouldn't have grown at all.
Right. I was like,
you'd be a skinny little guy.
I'm doing 45s with a quarter on doing those. I'm like,
I seen him leg press last year, 10, 12 plates.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but he's probably moving the weight
Right,
half
but I
reps.
mean, I'm not putting that was a smart thing to do. I learned from that.
Oh,
I was
that's why Dexter has no
been
injuries.
around for so long, right?
That's called genetics. If you did or I did that, we would not be.
Wouldn't have grown like
we
we
wouldn't
did,
look
right,
like
right.
Dexter Jackson. So you have to take into account people who are genetically gifted can do less and have longevity. Whereas
that's what I learned from Charles Glass: angles, squeeze, change your tempos.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I don't think that works for a lot of people.
I ask myself that many times, with the whole thing, could you go back in time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I should train a little smarter, I get that, but would I have looked the same?
No.
Probably not.
No, you wouldn't have built a big, thick, dense
I
muscle.
think what the problem is when you do a certain way of training, heavy weights, high intensity, and you grow from it, you don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
Even Dorian said that. He said, Steve Weinberg told me, he said, Dorian, what are you still lifting that heavy for? You're not going to lose this muscle. Just lighten your weights up and just for fun. You can't do it. You can't turn it off in your head because you think you have to keep out doing what you did.
So
that's what you did to get there, so you want to keep doing it.
Right.
The one slight injury I remember I had, 98, was patella tendon was hurting me. So I tried slower negatives, slower.
Probably made it
you
worse.
can clearly see in 98 my legs are smaller.
Oh, well, they really,
I mean,
yeah. 1 year I didn't squat because I figured I'm going to bring my waist down. And I brought my waist down 2.5 inches, but my legs came down too. Because like you said, light pressing and hack squats are not the same as regular squats. Right. So it is what it is. You live and learn. And like I said, that's why the Guru training course is so valuable for people out there who are looking to be coaches or looking to increase their knowledge base. And, just seeing guys like you come out to the course validates that it's important to constantly keep educating yourself.
I agree.
So tomorrow will be the secret to becoming a Diet Guru course. Maybe I'll put a few clips, live clips up on the Instagram so you guys can see what the class is like and all the people that are there. And maybe the next class I hold, which will probably be the end of May, early June, you guys can sign up if you're watching this. And I hope you enjoyed a little of our historical reminiscing here in the RXMuscle studios. I want to thank Brian Hoydic and Jean-Pierre Fux for coming by. And it's that time again. I'm Dave Palumbo with another installment of Live With in Studio.